Hello everyone. In this video we'll be discussing the second part of markedness, faithfulness, conflict. In the previous video we have already discussed how markedness is always in conflict and how they have surfaced, and also briefly talked about the faithfulness constraint and the lexical contrast. In this video we are going to talk about what if there is no markedness constraint in a particular language. Let's have a look. Let us now assume that there is a language Y, and this language gives maximal priority to lexical contrasts only and imposes no markedness restrictions. So, lexical contrast means this particular language wants whatever was there in the input will be surfaced as the output. So, all the faithfulness constraints will be satisfied, and there won't be any markedness restriction in the language. Let us see what happens in this kind of a condition. We enter this language with a combined segment inventories of world's languages, roughly let's say 20 consonants, which is a standard norm, and 5 vowels, which is another standard norm. We have taken a clue from Ledford and Madison's The Sounds of World's Languages, published in 1996. This is a global survey of over 300 languages of the sound patterns of natural languages, and the number is 300, more than 300 in fact. In this book, there are discussions on stops, nasals, nasalized consonants, fricatives, laterals, rhotics, clicks, vowels, and also multiple articulatory gestures and their subsequent phonological implications. So this is a basically survey of sound patterns in natural languages of the world. Let us now assume that the language Y has no markedness restrictions in its phonotactic rules and allows all logically possible segment combinations to form a lexical item. So whatever can be logically formulated, those all surface as lexical output forms. So permutation of the total 25 segments, that means the 20 consonants and 5 vowels. So we have 25 sound segments in this language. Let us have a permutation of total 25 segments into 2 segment combination, which allows us to create as many as 625 lexical items. How? By squaring 25, you get 625. So if you combine 25 segments into themselves, so we will get logically possible combinations of as many as 625 number of items. If language Y allows 3 segment combinations, then as many as 15,625 lexical items will be possible. If it allows segment combinations of 3 segments, like sa, ta, ra, this is a possible lexical combination or possible sound combination in most of the world's languages. In such a case, if all the not only sa, ta, ra, but there are many permutation and combination which can occur, and if we allow, and if a language allows all of them, then there will be 15,625 lexical items. We all know that this is not the case with any language. So no language actually allows neither 625 nor 15,625 lexical combination or sound combinations. Why? Because phonotactics. Because of phonotactics, languages do not allow certain sound combinations but do allow some others. Languages select only a few of those 625 possible combinations as output structures. For example, the 25 consonant inventory of language Y, let's say these are the sounds pa ta ka, fa tha kha, ba da ga, bha dha gha, ka, fa, va, sa, za, ha, ha, ma, na, ra, la, ra, ya, and wa. So these are common common sound segments maximally found in most of the languages of the world, with certain exceptions. But these are more common sounds found in world's languages, except ka. This is a slightly uncommon sound. Allowing all the possible combinations of all these 25 consonants would give us sequences like pra, tra, kra, and so on, with, let's say, only with ra. So if you combine all of them, all these sounds as the first member of a particular consonant cluster, and take ra as the second member of the cluster, so you get as many as 25 such kind of structures. This is only by using ra as the second member. So if you want to have another sound, let's say la, let's say sa, so you will have another 25. That is how the inventory is so big that it becomes 625 possible combinations. Some other combinations also include pa, ma, ka, fa, ya, ga, dha, ta, ma, fa, etc. So do you think these are possible? So most of these, in the first case, when we had pra, tra, kra, most of these sound okay. They can be possible, but unlike ra, this is slightly uncommon. Ra, can you speak this sound combination, or can you speak this ra at the beginning of a word in the onset position? Can you speak this? Yeah. Can you speak this? And can you speak this by combining pa with ma, ka with fa, and so on? Can you do that? Think about it. Markedness constraints will try to eliminate these difficult sound combination from the set of 625 and retain only the easier ones. And that is the job of the markedness constraint or constraints, because markedness constraints want to have well-formed output structure in any condition. So out of the 625 combinations, it will try to remove those which are not well formed. So it will try to remove which you could not process, or you felt that these are not possible to be spoken. The ones who will be retained are both universally and cross-linguistically allowed. Every language, however, chooses different sets of sound combinations. For example, while most of the languages do allow pra, tra, kra, only some may allow fra, tra, kra, and so on. This is a very crucial point, that out of the universally and cross-linguistically allowed sound combinations, languages select their own combinations because of their own language-specific phonotactic restrictions. This is very important. While Indic languages do allow mra, English does not allow it. So we have in Indic languages words like mrityu, and that is true. And we also have words for like nritya, mrityu for death, and nritya for dance. So we do allow mra and nra both because of the Sanskrit origin of these languages called Indic languages. But English-like languages, Romance languages of the same language family, that is i.e. Indo-European, English and most of the languages of that branch do not allow mra. So a word or a syllable cannot begin with this particular consonant cluster. Therefore, phonotactics of a language is a language specific or language specifically based. What happens when markedness constraints are activated? So we have seen that if there is no markedness constraint, so all the 625 combinations will surface. But then that is not allowed because of certain constraints on the markedness side. Let us now assume that due to some morphophonological operations, some unusual combinations such as fra, tra, cra emerge. Then some markedness constraints will be invoked or activated to simplify those combinations, and as a result, fra, tra, cra will now surface as pra, tra, cra. So the aspiration part here, here and here, they are set off and the aspirated consonants have become plain plosives. In such a condition or situation, there poses two questions: how to handle these changes, and what happens to those lexical contrasts shown by both these two sets. So if there is a neutralization like this, fra becoming pra, thra becoming thra, and kra becoming kra, so what will happen to those words or lexical items which originally had these structures or sound combinations? Let's see what happens. This is called reduction of lexical contrasts. Let's assume that language Z allows both these two sets of sound combinations, pra, tra, kra and fra, tra, kra, phonemically. So in language Z, you have a capability, or the language has a capability to surface or make use of these two sets of sounds. Therefore, they have clear lexical contrast too in this way. So plain plosive plus ra gives us words like prin. This is a hypothetical language. Please remember this. So you have prin, trail or trial and crota. So in these three words you see pra, tra, kra have appeared in the word initial onset position. Similarly, with aspirated plosive plus ra gives you prin, trial and crota. So you have these prin and frin as phonemes, or sorry, as minimal pairs, giving you pra and fra to be phonemically distinctive. Okay, so let's say language Z have these two sets of words with plain plosive plus ra and aspirated plosive plus ra. If fra, tra, kra change to pra, tra, kra, then prin would mean both joy and rain, right? Thereby reducing the lexical contrasts. Words will have multiple meanings in the language Z. How? Because in case of fra becoming pra, then both these words for rain and joy in this language will will have the same surface structure prin, because pra has become pra. So similarly, there is no trial, but there it will be trial, and both trial and trial, trial will mean both spy and fate. Crota will mean both bamboo and bird. So this is called reduction of lexical contrast. Earlier we had two different sounds or two different word structure to mean two different concepts: joy and rain, similarly spy and fate, and bamboo and bird. But when we reduce those contrasts, then only one particular form gives us two meanings. What about the faithfulness constraints then? If the sound combinations like fra, tra, kra change to pra, tra, kra, then won't the faithfulness constraints be upset? Yes, they will be, because they don't allow any change from the input to output. As already noted, faithfulness constraints do not allow or do not like any change from the input to output. Therefore, a changed candidate aspires to satisfy a markedness constraints, then it is destined to violate a faithfulness constraint. These two categories are therefore always in conflict.